Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have metalcore band Darkenside. I just wanted to go into some of your background, how you got started, what was some of your influences. Ron, do you want to go first?
Sure, sure. Uh, I've been playing music since I was pretty young. I got my first guitar when I was 13, but I'd been kind of singing and dabbling with other instruments before that. I had a family of musicians. I wasn't really raised with them, and I didn't know them very well, but I think there was some sort of genetic thing going on there because I was just really into music, and no one else, like none of my siblings were. My mom and none of really anyone on my mom's side really was. So I just got this knack for it from my dad's side, even though I didn't spend a lot of time with them growing up. And I just I loved it in high school. I played in a couple bands. I loved rock. I eventually became very fascinated with metal just because it was like more challenging to play. And a lot of the vocalists in the metal scene were just like amazing. You know, they sing with like grit and fire, and I just was like, I want to learn to do that. So from a young age, I was practicing stuff like that. You know, listening to bands like Linkin Park and Disturbed and Korn, and you know that new metal scene was a huge influence on me. Early 2000s, and eventually I had played in a handful of bands. And if anyone has played in a band, you start to kind of see the work ethic in people, and you know who's going to make it and who's not pretty quickly. And so as soon as I decided that we were going to do this, professionally on a business level, I had to make sure I was surrounding myself with people that had the same work ethic as me, and that kind of changed things. And met Bryson and Nate along the way, and these just really talented guys that are all super. Their work ethic's great, but they just have like a really good ear for it. They're all really talented, and so like we kind of inspire each other in that way because we're always just like wowing each other with the stuff we come up with, and it's just fun. It's just fun to keep pushing the envelope, and working with your friends on these crazy projects that start with just a couple riffs and turn into this masterpiece.
Nathan?
Yeah, similar to Ron, I started out pretty young when I was a kid playing the drums. Grew up with two older brothers that were pretty heavily music influenced, so I just kind of grew up when I was a kid, just jamming along after school or whatnot, and then eventually after high school got into like a punk band, and then eventually met the Darkenside guys, and here we are now. Just released probably like one of the best killer albums I've worked on. Uh, Descent, our latest single, When I Came In, and so
What are some of your influences, Nathan?
when I was a kid, it was mainly just like '70s rock, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, kind of. That's what my dad listened to, so that's kind of what I grew up on, kind of like John Bonham, and then later on, I kind of got into metal. Chelsea Grin, the Megadeth or Metallica or um, Trivium or all these different bands. So I really started getting into that, which I never really played before, and then just fell in love with it. And here we are now, and it's crazy to see that I've never played this type of music when I was a kid. So it's fun to see where we are now. it's fun to see where we are now.
Ron, how did the band form?
So I was in a group called Lila Crying back in like probably like 2010 to 2012 ish area, and it was mostly like just a group of friends, and we were just trying to make money, and we were all pretty talented musicians, so we could just bust out covers for like cover gigs or whatever, and I was starting to pepper in originals, and eventually the work ethic in that band just kind of fell apart. Like there was two people that were going strong, and it was that band's drummer and myself, and the other guys, like, we're lucky if they show up for rehearsal. So I decided like this wasn't worth my time and energy anymore. I need people with the same mindset as me. So I started a new group, wrote all these new tracks that was off our first album with our first drummer, Ken Nichols, who's no longer with us, but he's one of my best friends. He's still a big fan of the band and comes to our shows when he can. But I started the band, I want to say 2014, and I'd written like 5 songs, and then we picked up Sam Mills, our guitarist at the time, and we were a 4-piece. I was playing guitar, rhythm, and doing vocals, and then we had our bass player who just departed with us recently, Jordan, and that was the main lineup for about 2 years, and we released our first album with that lineup, and then we ended up getting another drummer, and then another drummer, and then we got Nate, and oh shit, well, there's the illusion, it's gone now. uh, and yeah, so we started it back in 2014, and the first album was quite a bit different. We picked up Bryson after that album, and we recorded the track Mercy, the cover, the Shawn Mendes cover, and it did really well. And Bryson had kind of brought his own flair and style to it. It's a little bit more modern versus what I was doing. I was more riff salading my way through our songs just because I love riffs. And so after that, I kind of let Bryson take over on like the composition and mainly focus on like the vocals and the story. And that kind of became our formula for what we're doing now. So it's a little bit different than when we first started, but when we first started it was, a little 4-piece deal. Worked pretty good for us. Then we got better musicians and better work ethic as we went along, and it's just evolved to where it's at now.
How did Nathan get involved? Did you like put out ads looking for people? Did you already know him?
So Nathan was really young when we actually first met him. He was in a punk band at the time called Jet Force Gemini as their bass player. Yeah, yeah. And we were throwing this festival that we did ourselves, kind of like a house party out in the middle of nowhere. It was called the Backwoods Balls. It'd be like 300 or 400 people there, and a bunch of like tents for like food and whatever. It was just like a thing that we were doing ourselves. We did a couple years in a row, but we needed bands who were willing to just come out and have a good time. We would give them the rock star treatment, but we couldn't really pay him much more than gas. And his band had come out, and that's where we met him. And then we invited him back the second year because we thought they were rad. He came back the second year, and they had changed their style more towards like from the punk pop kind of vibe to like a more of a metal, like a modern metal sound. And he was now their drummer, not their bass player. And our drummer at the time, Pascal, was like, he's amazing. And then we found out he was like really young too. And so we knew that when we went on tour, there was a chance that Pascal wasn't going to be able to go with us because of his job. And so we all decided we were going to have backups for tours. So we would hit up these other musicians that we thought could handle the load. And if they wanted to, they could go with us if we couldn't make it. Like a member couldn't make it to the tour. So we picked Nat. Pascal picked up Nate after seeing him drum. And Nate was just like all for it. He just rose to the challenge. And then when Pascal eventually left the band because of his own personal life stuff, he had a kid on the way, and his job and stuff was kind of making it difficult. Nate had already known all of our songs to go on tour, so it was just an easy transition.
Yeah, well put, Ron. Yep, pretty much how it said.
Over the last year with the lockdown and the concert industry like shut down, what did you guys do over the last year?
We put out an album.
So you went into the studio during that year?
We finished the album in the studio right before the lockdowns. So what we ended up doing is we had planned on releasing the album that summer, but because of lockdowns, we didn't think we'd be able to have like a very meaningful release. So we decided to push everything back and then start doing videos with singles and promoting them properly and making sure that we're throwing a good strong budget at that, And we just decided to do that. And then by the time we were ready to release some music videos, it was kind of like a month thing where we just dropped a video, and then we dropped the whole album. Yeah. Yeah. So we just kept busy on making sure that the content was going to be promoted properly through the lockdown.
The changeover with the band members, did all the new band members play on the new album?
Yes. Yes, they did. Yeah. Yeah. The solo work was Isaac and the lead work. Bryson did most of the rhythm composition. Nate was all the drums. Um, and then our bass player was, we mostly midied our bass in for this album. We just felt that it sounded better in the mix than the tones that we were working with. So, and then yeah, vocals last.
When you guys sit down and decide to write a song, do you, yeah, you actually have like words or idea of how it's going to go, or do you just start with the music and then add the words after the song's completed?
I would say pre the lockdowns and stuff, like it was pretty normal for if we wanted to just jam out, we'd find something we liked and work with it and then build off from that. But making it harder to hang out and spend time together with the lockdowns and stuff. Mostly what we do is like Bryson will probably, he's not the only one, but a lot of times Bryson will bring like a riff or like a beginning, like intro to like a song, see how we feel about it. And if we're digging it, then we just keep building off of it and we just start giving them input from there. He brings us a lot of startups, but we also individually make our own and bring them to the table as well and do that. But that's usually how it works. Bryson starts it, then we start throwing ideas at it, and then it gets its composition and its shape, and then Nate will go back in and make the drums the way he wants them, and then we'll throw some leads where we decide we want to have leads and guitar work, and then eventually I'll go in there and just lay down the story and the vocals, and we just take it step by step like that. We just keep adding to it, and we'll do multiple songs at the same time. We might have 3 or 4 of these little things that we're just working on at the same time, just adding to. Yeah.
Little projects, little ideas, yeah.
Yeah, little snippets of this and that, 30 seconds here, 40 seconds there.
And then eventually it kind of builds off into something.
And then we just keep shaping it until we're like, yeah, we're all happy with this. This is pretty dope. It's not done till we're all happy.
You released the Descent album in June. How's the reception been with your fans with that?
Good response. Good response.
Been really good. I got a lot of people sliding into my DMs lately trying to tell me how much this album has meant to them. So that's pretty cool. Like pretty daily. Like people I haven't talked to in forever. Just I love the new song. When I Cave In's my new favorite song. It's pretty sweet actually.
What are you guys currently listening to as far as new music out there? Is there anything we need to know about? Any new bands out there?
Spirit Box has been something I've been kind of dabbling with a little bit. They're on Rise Records, so that's a cool band. Let's see, Wage War. They just dropped. I'm trying to think about all the bands that just dropped something recently.
Sleep Token just originally dropped some singles. Wage War dropped some singles that were really good. Yeah. The last album Fit for a King dropped was really good. The last Architects album was really, really good. Same thing with Bring Me the Horizon.
Chelsea Grin. I'm waiting on them to hopefully drop something here pretty soon. I always love their stuff.
The last two Trivium singles are really good too. Yeah, I just do whatever's out there. Like if I stumble across it, I'm listening to it. And it just goes into it. It's really hard for me to even name all the bands we listen to regularly because it's so vast. We listen to a lot of them.
Are you guys like on a label or you're just independent?
It's kind of a mixture. We are on a label, but it's a distribution deal, so we own all the rights to our music. But like we work through our label for like loans and as well as like merch and stuff and our album sales, and they also like help us with our stream management and stuff through all the platforms we use. So we are on a label. It's a legit label, but our contract is unique in that we own the rights to our music still.
Any shows coming up anytime soon? You got any plans for shows?
We just had 3 shows, and then we had 2 more planned. But with the lockdown so close to when those shows are, they decided to cancel them because they didn't think it was going to have as big of a turnout, as well as there was a lot of bands having complications. So they've all been canceled already. But we did have like a decent little set of shows, a set of runs before they announced the lockdowns.
Shows that you did play, was there a lot of people that showed up?
Yeah, yeah. The first one was a private event, so it wasn't as much. But the next 2 were pretty good turnouts. Yeah, they're pretty packed, sold out shows and whatnot.
Yeah, I've noticed that people just want to get out of the house and have fun and enjoy music, and
They do, yeah. They want to be around other people, that's for sure.
you guys went through several different lineup changes over the years. Do you think that this is the lineup you've been searching for?
Well, we did just lose our bass player. Um, he got some job opportunities that required him to travel, and he didn't think he could dedicate enough time to this and that. So he decided to, with a heavy heart, step back. And he was one of our founding members, and he's actually my cousin. So that was kind of a bummer, but we're hoping that the person that replaces him, it's going to be a very high bar for us. We want this guy to be able to play obviously everything, have a good understanding of bass tones, bass equipment, good work ethic, and be willing to invest in himself when it comes to this band, because that's what we do. We're constantly throwing our own personal money into our promotions and whatnot, because it's what you do. Um, so as long as he's got the same work ethic, mindset, and is on the same level as us in his musicianship, like once we find that guy, assuming that he wants to stick around for the long haul, I think that'll be our lineup, because everyone else here is pretty dedicated, and I'm completely happy with them since they've joined.
Your newest single, When I Cave In, is about suicide awareness. Would you like to talk about some of that, how you came up with that song?
That was a song that I wrote for one of my best friends growing up who took his life. Um, I was kind of trying to put myself in his perspective on how I would have felt had I been in his shoes going through what he was going through. And then, I just kind of write a story using metaphors and stuff to kind of express the deepness of what, that kind of tragedy that occurred within him for him to take his own life. And on the music side, we wanted to, show that. At the very end of the song, there's a dual guitar lead that goes out. It's kind of like a send off. And the reason why it was done that way is because his favorite band was Avenged Sevenfold, and they do a lot of dual guitar stuff. So actually on the album, that's the only part of the album where I actually track guitar. And it's for that, and it was my like personal little send off to him. So if you listen to the very end of it and you hear the little dual guitar thing, that was like fashioned specifically for my friend. And during the video, it shows a picture of him and talks about the suicide awareness and posts the suicide hotline and whatnot. But yeah, that song was basically just me trying to dedicate something to one of my closest friends who was no longer with us.
On that song, you have a choir singing towards the end of the song. Is that something you had in mind before you went in the studio to record it, or did it happen while you were in the studio? You're like, we should add this to it.
Well, for that song, it was completely intended. Like before we even hit the studio, we knew we were going to do that. However, we have another song on the album called Broken that while we had the girls in the studio, the choir, uh, we also had them participate in that other song. Now, that one was completely off the cuff and ended up sounding great for that song. But for When I Cave In, that was entirely planned, like before we even hit the studio. That was something we definitely wanted to try.
How do we get a hold of you guys? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, uh, email.
All of it. We need to be more active on our Twitter, but we do have one. Yeah. Yeah. Email, you can, if you're trying to book us or anything, you can also visit the website, and there's a thing for that as well if you're trying to book shows or events. Yeah. Social media will work. Facebook's probably the biggest one. Instagram's pretty big too.
What state is your band based out of?
It originated in Washington, but we claim Portland as our hometown because it's the largest major city to all of us. So it's the best for getting work. You know, people look for local bands in Portland or whatever, and they're trying to get some, quick bands together. Like our name pops up on that list. No one's looking for local bands in Longview. So, yeah.
Is Portland like a big music scene?
They have a pretty big music scene, but with the way things have been and the riots and stuff, yeah, I would say it's not as big as like the East Coast, but or it's probably not even nearly as big as Seattle, but Seattle's a little bit further out of the way, and it's a harder scene to get a hold of or get into unless you're already up there, So yeah, we have some Seattle bands that are friends, but we haven't played up there too much, and the shows that we did play up there never panned out the way we wanted them to. There's always some fuckery going on making it difficult.
That's all I have. Do you guys got anything else to add?
Well, next year we have big plans. We're gonna be dropping a lot of singles throughout the year. So, if you like any of our music, like and follow us on all of our stuff. It really helps. Maybe subscribe to us on YouTube and stay tuned for the new music.
Nate, you got anything?
Nah, dude, thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out to us. And, you know, the more exposure, the better. So, you know, yeah, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. And, yeah, if you have any more questions, or feel free to reach out to us, or we're always here. Yeah, we're always here, man. So,
Especially with lockdown, we're gonna have some more free time.
free time to work on singles and stuff like that. So, but thanks again, Randy, man. We'll see you later, dude.